So now I want to look at some of the practical implications of the cultural trends. Now, there's no question, all of you in this room, you wouldn't be here unless you understood that we are in deep trouble. And if you didn't get it, those of you who are participating in the Bioneers video cast got more and more of the details today, perhaps more than you really even necessarily wanted. But we are clearly experiencing a potentially terminal economic, social, and environmental crisis. Now, my take on this is the system that drives us to that crisis. The institutions, the institutional framework that we must address. Because this failure is an inescapable demonstration of the failure of our institutional systems, the failure of our culture, our cultural stories. Our financial systems are gyrating out of control beyond human accountability. Extreme inequality is tearing apart the social fabric. Earth's critical living systems are collapsing, and political corruption has rendered our political institutions incapable of effective corrective action. You know, we really are in kind of a bad mess. So we need not spend our time here further enumerating the failures. The challenge before us, the positive challenge, is nicely summarized by the preamble to the Earth Charter. And I assume many of you are familiar with the Earth Charter. As most of you know, it grew out of the 1992 Rio Earth Summit. It involved discussion over a number of years among thousands and thousands of people around the world, representing all the world's cultures and ethnicities and religions, etc. And it begins with these prophetic words. We stand at a critical moment in Earth's history, a time when humanity must choose its future. As the world becomes increasingly interdependent and fragile, the future at once holds great peril and great promise. To move forward, we must recognize that in the midst of a magnificent diversity of cultures and life forms, we are one human family and one Earth community with a common destiny. Now, the truly epic nature of this challenge is best understood in its deeper historical and evolutionary context. For the past 5,000 years, we humans have been living in a cultural trance of our own making that alienates us from the land, from our true human nature, and from our human place in the cosmos. And the result is a massive misappropriation, misallocation of Earth's resources. Now, as our human consciousness was first awakened, our capacities for conscious self-direction grew. We learned to communicate through speech. We mastered fire, domesticated plants and animals, learned to construct houses of skin, wood, stone, and dried mud. We developed the arts of pottery, painting, weaving, and carving. We undertook vast continental and intercontinental migrations to populate the planet and adapted to vastly different physical topographies and climates. We created complex languages and social codes that allowed for life in ever larger communities. And in our earliest days, we humans raised our children collectively, in the clan, tribe, or village, initiating them to the ways of life and the need to serve the community, to care for our Earth Mother as she in turn cares for us. But then some 5,000 years ago, something went terribly wrong. We turned from the ways of Earth community to the ways of empire. It became a time of separation and forgetting. Community, partnership, and the celebration of life gave way to domination and violence. The few expropriated the wealth of the many. And as the masculine drove out the feminine, our cultural stories changed. We continued to worship our sky father, but we turned against our Earth Mother. Conquest became the measure of greatness. We came to value the power to kill and destroy more highly than the ability to create and nurture life. Nature became the enemy, to be subdued and enslaved in the service of empire. Our cities and our buildings became walled fortresses, cutting us off from one another in the larger community of life that once sustained our flesh and our spirit. And as we built to overpower nature, we also overpowered ourselves. And we lost our sense of being part of a living world. The destruction of community and the systematic cultivation of alienation from one another in nature serve well the forces of empire. For so long as we function as alienated individuals, we identify with the hierarchy rather than with the community. Individualism born of isolation facilitates the creation of economies based on servitude, with a few on the top and most on the bottom. Everyone is placed in competition with everyone else for the few favored positions. And the bonds of caring and sharing are broken. Control of money and the instruments of physical coercion become the prime arbiter of relationships. And the creative energy of the species is redirected from securing the well-being of the tribe and Mother Earth to advancing the technological instruments of war and the social instruments of domination.